Kellyanne, good morning. Thanks for being here.
Good morning, Brian. Thank you.
I know you and Anthony Scaramucci just had a chance to talk off camera. What was your conversation about, and what's going to change at the White House now that he is running communications?
Well, here we are in New York at the CNN Time Warner Studios, happily conversing in the hallways between CNN hits. So that tells you something. We're very happy to come and take questions from I think an outlet that's been incredibly unfair and systematically against this president. I guess you made a business decision to do so, but we're here trying to connect the American people with the president's message and answer your questions as respectfully as we can. Look, I think Sean Spicer should be lauded for his service to this nation as a patriot, for his service as press secretary. The president invited Sean to stay on. He was trying to add to the team, not subtract, but Sean made a different decision. And I think I stand with everybody in the White House, including Anthony Scaramucci and the president, the vice president themselves, in thanking Sean for his service. But we're going to do what we can to push back. I think there's defense, there's offense, and really my main grievance, if you will, and my main objective as somebody who does not work directly in press and comms, but as counselor to the president tries to support what press and comms are doing in the White House, Brian, my main objective has always been, can we get complete coverage? I know we're never going to get unbiased coverage, but can we get more complete coverage? Can we connect Americans through shows like yours and elsewise on CNN and elsewhere with the information they need? They need to know that there have been over 800,000 jobs created. They need to know that there's 25 record highs for the Dow Jones since Donald Trump became the president. These veterans need to know there's a 24/7 hotline waiting for them at the White House as you and I speak here, that they have better protections now through the Veterans Choice Act. If they can't access timely quality care through the VA, which most veterans say they can, they have the option of going into the private system like you or I could and getting that timely quality care. People need to know that the regulatory rollback has meant that property owners and taxpayers and parents of public school students, that they have more freedom now than they had a short while ago. They need to watch the commissioning of the USS Gerald Ford yesterday and know that the thousands of patriots who will be on that vessel going through our world's waters, they will know when they see that vessel coming that military might for America is back.
So in your first answer, you made several points about the administration's accomplishments, but you started by attacking CNN. Why does attacking CNN make America great again?
No, I'm sure you want that to go viral. I'm not attacking CNN. I'm wondering why CNN spends its time.
You said the company made a business decision to be unfair to the president, when in fact what we are trying to do is cover a very unusual president and try to explain what the heck is going on at a White House that seems awfully dysfunctional.
Let's break that down. Well, first of all, that's not fair. And I constantly hear this coming out of the mouths of people who have never worked in any White House, let alone this White House. If you want a more candid, clear look at the functioning of the White House, I invite you inside. Come inside. You know, it's a two-way street. We don't see that. I'm a very accessible person. I think you'll find with Anthony Scaramucci and others in the White House, we're tough but humble. And this is the people's house. You are welcomed inside to see, but we never get those calls. We just turn on the TV and we see a one-way, non-conversation using words that are meant to deride and deny the president his due, that are incredibly disrespectful. So I'm not here to attack CNN. I'm here to ask you.
You're welcome here anytime.
Thank you. As a very important person at CNN,
It's the 6-month mark of the presidency.
Great, yes, and there have been many accomplishments that don't get covered, so thank you for the platform. I want America to hear what's been done for them, but they know that. The forgotten man and forgotten woman are not forgotten to us. But let me just back up to CNN.
It's not our job to do your PR, it's your job. And it seems the White House this week admitted that there's been a lot of failures because the press secretary all of a sudden resigned and left his job.
But that's Sean's decision, and Sean was up against incredible odds, and as the president said in the tweet about Sean, he thanks him for his service and he thinks he took a lot of unnecessary abuse. But let me get back to whether we're attacking or not attacking CNN. Please don't. I don't feel sorry for CNN. I don't feel sorry for you or me. We are fine. You and I have health care benefits that are given by our employers. You and I have great jobs and we're safe in our jobs. You and I have disposable income. God bless you and your wife, Jamie, and your new daughter. We are people who are not struggling paycheck to paycheck, who aren't worried about paying the rent or the mortgage or the student loan voucher or the tuition payment this very month. We're not deciding between groceries and health care benefits. I'm there for those people. And Brian, if we can rely on your help at CNN, not to do our PR, that's silly, that's nonsense, to connect Americans with the information they need. If you're going to cover Russia, 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 while we're talking about America, 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 we're always going to be like this. If you actually look at the polls, the Wall Street Journal did this great polling analysis where they said 6% of Americans, 6%, said Russia was the most important issue to them, and yet the mainstream media has given it 75% of coverage. They've said 35% and then said healthcare is the most important issue.
In that same Bloomberg study, yeah. That's right.
And you're
10%
not
for
covering
climate
healthcare.
change, 11% for immigration. But that same Bloomberg poll found that only 40% of Americans approve of this president. Is your strategy now, and Scaramucci's strategy, only to play to the base? Or are you trying to reach 100% of Americans, not just 40?
No, I thank you for putting the poll up because I want your viewers to see. I appreciate that. 35% health care. The only coverage CNN really gives health care is whether or not it will pass, whether or not they have the votes, whether or not this will be some colossal legislative failure.
And it collapsed this week, a stunning failure,
it didn't.
one of the biggest stories of the year.
See, there you go, using those words, stunning failure. But look, if you want it to be a stunning failure, or you're going to insist it is a stunning failure, you are denying literally the millions and millions of Americans who were lied to by the last president. You like your plan, keep your plan. You like your doctor, keep your doctor. They don't have health care benefits through their employer like you and I do. They don't have them through the government.
That was 2009. It's 2017.
No.
Let's look
We're
forward,
living with
not
Obamacare.
all the time.
Let's look forward. Let's look forward. And let's look at all of the people who did not benefit from Obamacare. You can't sit here today, Brian, and deny the facts. 19 out of the 23 co-ops under Obamacare have failed. They're gone. 83 insurers have pulled it out of the exchanges, with dozens more promising to do so this year and next year. We have, if Obamacare is not repealed by 2018, we will have over 1,300 counties in our country where there's one choice, which means there's no choice. Right now, we have 40 bare counties with no choice. Medicaid is unsustainable. We're trying to save it for the future. We're trying to give flexibility to the governors.
These
health savings accounts. Well, but the only reason, the only time they're going to cover that is because I'm here.
There's plenty of time to cover both. We're on a 24-hour channel with an infinite website. Russia is a big story because journalists love America, and America was attacked last year. And America's probably going to be attacked again next year around the midterms.
And that has what to do with our campaign that I manage. I manage the winning campaign. It has what to do with that campaign.
That may be because by the time you became campaign manager, the deal was already in. The conversations were already had.
That's just
we
not
don't
true.
know, Kellyanne, but
Brian, are you going to say that? Are you actually alleging that there were active conversations with Russians trying to change the election results? Because very few people are actually saying that. Are you saying that? Or are you just trying to put it out there because you guys are so invested or there being something there? What is there? What constitutional crisis are we facing right now? I tell you what we do know.
I'm going to leave that to Jeffrey Toobin and the law experts. But many people are afraid that if this president fires Robert Mueller, we will be in a constitutional crisis. Why doesn't the president just want Mueller to prove that Trump is right, that Russia was a hoax? Why doesn't he just want Mueller to go ahead and confirm that for him?
Well, isn't Mr. Mueller and his band of Democratic donors doing that? Aren't they trying to do that? But look, Brian, let's back up. Again, I'm asking you to please cover the issues that America are telling pollsters, including CNN's pollsters. You at CNN are not even making good. You're not being honest to your own polling if you look at the issues that people say are most important to them. You're not covering them. You just went right back to Russia.
I think people can care about multiple issues at the same time.
Right, so why aren't you covering them? Why are most of your lower thirds
care about a lot of issues?
Of course. That's America, and that's Donald Trump. He ran on a lot of issues. He's making good on those promises with or without the help of a number of cable stations. But let's be honest here. You cannot with a straight face tell me that you've got this disproportionate, out of whack, unequal coverage on Russia with nothing there. There's nobody. I mean, even Chuck Schumer this weekend gave an interview where he's suggesting that Hillary Clinton should look in the mirror. I'd say that right back to you, but here's what is true. Millions of people don't have health care and they thought they would. Millions of people looking for jobs. The unemployment rate way down. The job creation way up. The stock market way up. The regulatory reform.
And Americans know that. Americans
they only know it if they're looking elsewhere.
50% of Americans strongly disapprove of the president. You're a pollster. Will that ever change? Are you trying to convince the 60%, or according to Gallup, we'll show the Gallup headline that shows a record low approval rating as of this weekend, 36%. That means that almost 2/3 of Americans don't support the president right now. Are you trying to persuade them? Or is the strategy, Kellyanne, just to appeal to the base from now on?
No, and again, you want that to say the president said on November 9th, as he was elected, as Hillary Clinton called my cell phone and congratulated, an important word, conceded, I know that they can't let go of these election results now.
We're talking about Hillary Clinton again?
No,
Honestly,
we're talking
I don't
about
have time for that.
Brian, excuse me. If you're going to talk about Russia, you're going to talk about emails, and you're going to talk about investigations. You're going to talk about.
You're actually the one that brought up Russia.
You're always going to be talking about Hillary Clinton.
I didn't bring up Russia.
No. Your network is obsessed with that. You're vested in it. All the chyrons say it constantly. All the guests talk about
There's
it.
a big story going on, Kellyanne, and just because you deny it doesn't mean it's not a big story.
The reason it's not a big story. What makes it big? And you can't tell me that this is about the campaign and then we're not to talk about Hillary Clinton. The reason I just raised her is because when she called to concede the election to Donald Trump, he immediately went up to the podium and said something that remains true at this moment. He said, I will be the president of all Americans, even those who do not support me. He's not appealing to the base. He's making good on his promises. When I go out around this country as I do, and you ever want to cover it, come and join me. When I go out around this country for the opioid crisis,
You're
and
the
I
one
meet
that's
with
in New
people,
York right now. I'm not. But I agree
I'm
with you on the opioid crisis.
Brian,
the
but hold
opioid
on.
crisis has been undercovered by the national media.
Yes,
we have to
and
do a better
we're out
job
there.
covering
Come
that.
and
I
follow
agree
me.
with you.
You're welcome. I don't want it to be a media spectacle.
But why doesn't
You're
the
welcome.
president talk about it, Kellyanne?
He's
Cameras
got
would
us
follow
out
him
there.
wherever he goes.
Now, hold on. He talks about it plenty. He has a White House commission. There's $45 billion committed to it in this health care bill. And he's got Secretary
He's
Tom Price
tweeting
at
about
HHS
pardons.
and me.
He's not tweeting about the opioid crisis.
He tweets about
I would love
everything.
for him to tweet about real issues.
He tweets about many things, and he's put together a White House commission on this, a bipartisan commission, and he's sending Secretary of HHS Tom Price and I out to meet with people. And I want to tell you something. When I meet with those people who are suffering from the opioid crisis, the scourge of our times, where no state has been spared, no demographic group untouched, I've never asked a single one, nor would I ever. Hey, do you support the president? How did you vote? Are you a Democrat? We're here to help everyone, and we would like your help at least being honest enough to say people in this country who aren't as privileged as you and me, Brian, are suffering, and we're there for them. And you know, when you talk about these approval ratings, when you talk about, look at the approval on the economy, look at the numbers that matter to people. Look at all the job creation. Look at the $70 billion they project will be saved through the 14 Congressional Review Acts that this president has put forth. Look at how he's building the wall. Look at the illegal boarding crosses that are down. Look at ISIS in retreat. Look at him negotiating a ceasefire in part of Syria.
ISIS was in retreat before November 8th or 9th. A lot of these things were already happening.
They weren't.
I appreciate your points about the president's momentum, but this is a White House in crisis, whether you recognize it or not. The credibility gap is severe.
Where do you get that? Where do you get that? It's a White House in crisis.
The credibility gap is severe. The president's misleading and false statements on a regular basis to most of the country, even if you're going to stick with that 36% that approved no matter what.
No, you're not looking at. Part of the disapproval are the independents who voted for him and want him to ignore all the nonsense and all the noise and all the Russian nonsense. That's part of it. Part of it is people upset with Congress. The president's approval rating is far higher than the approval rating of the media or the Congress, and there's a reason for that. Americans are looking at the media, they're looking at Congress and saying, do your job. Your job is not to Russia, Russia, Russia all day long and hoping that something manna will drop from heaven one day and this will be real and not phony. The job of the Congress,
you know,
the job of the
journalists
Congress,
are figuring out what's going on through investigations.
Okay, well, but why don't you cover what you do know is real, which is that millions of Americans don't have health care.
There's a lot of reporters who are covering lots of things.
Not.
You're
We've
acting
done a
as
content
if
analysis.
what you see on 1 hour, you're acting like what you see on 1 hour of CNN it equates to the entire national news media, tens of thousands of hardworking journalists who love America, who also want to make sure the president's doing his job.
Yes, they do. Sure, but you look at his job through the lens of Russia. I look at his job through the lens of America. So on that, we're always going to disagree. Number two, and most importantly, this president is out there all the time. I mean, you've got CNN reporters with him. If you just stopped and talked to those people and asked them why they're there, how did the veterans feel now that they've got an ability to access care? How do the coal miners feel that their health care benefits were protected and the regulatory burden that was placed on them by the last president was lifted in the first couple of months? How do the pro-lifers feel?
It sounds like you should be an assignment editor, Kellyanne. I'm sure you could get a job in a newsroom.
No. Well, why would I want that? I'm counselor to the president. But I am telling you that
because you're listing off all these stories that you believe are undercovered, and I respect that you think they don't get enough attention.
They are.
But journalists
you know
also
what?
recognize
Twitter's not an
there
assignment
are big
editor.
Scandals going on. I agree with you on that.
On?
But since this
Brian,
is a show
them.
about the media, since this
Go
is a
ahead.
show about the media,
I'll sit here. I want to hear about the. No. You can't get away with that. What are the quote big scandals going on? Please name them for me.
When you look at this president's rhetoric, his demagogic behavior when it comes to the media, yes, it actually is. But the more important scandals are what happened before. You don't think that his words against the media are poison, Kellyanne, actually hurting the country on a daily basis?
His rhetoric is a scandal?
When he calls real news outlets fake, when he calls real news outlets fake news, he poisons our public discourse.
Hey,
makes
Brian,
it harder for us to communicate as a country.
So I've never used those
trust
words.
Each other.
I've never used those words,
and
but
I
it doesn't
wonder
stop.
why that is.
But hold on, but it doesn't stop. It doesn't stop people at CNN on personally attacking each of us and running these ridiculous palace intrigue stories basically since the day we've been there, where the only people who got fired so far.
But there is a lot of palace intrigue, Kellyanne.
The only people who got fired so far don't work in the West Wing and his inner circle. They worked at CNN. 3 of your colleagues got fired here because they rushed to judgment to our new communications director.
So you're complimenting CNN.
Anthony Scaramucci.
You're complimenting CNN for taking action and holding journalists accountable for not following editorial practices.
I don't think you had a choice.
Why hasn't the White House
held
aides accountable for false statements?
Brian, that is ridiculous. Are you telling me that the fact that 3 of your colleagues were forced to resign or got fired here because they were slandering my new White House colleague, Anthony Scaramucci, was gracious and humble enough to say, I'm glad they retracted this story. I accept their apology because he's got class and grace. Are you telling me that reflects well on CNN, that you're going to go out with thinly or anonymously sourced stories that end up being complete slanderous hit jobs on a good man? I mean, this is a two-way street. But look, you're looking at everything through the lens of the media.
Kellyanne, you've been an anonymous source.
You said
lots of people in the White House have been an anonymous source.
Excuse me.
This morning, Anthony Scaramucci said on stage. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, I just wanted to say, because you said there are, quote, big scandals. And when I asked you what these big scandals are, because I can't let these incendiary words just float out there with no evidence. I can't just because people want clicks, they want things to go viral, they want ad revenues. I won't do that. But if you can tell me what these big scandals are, you came back with rhetoric.
I'm not trying to go viral. But the scandals are about the president's lies, about voter fraud, about wiretapping, his repeated lies about those issues.
He doesn't think he's lying about those issues, and you know it. He has gone forth and he talked about surveillance, and you know we've got
a lot of husbands don't think they're lying when they cheat on their spouse and then say they're not. Doesn't mean you're not lying.
Oh, are you back to the Clintons now? What are you talking about? What kind of analogy is that? I mean, look. Look,
I appreciate the Clinton pivot. I do. I respect what you do and how you do it. Can we take a look at something that Anthony Scaramucci said on State of the Union this morning?
I watched the whole interview.
Scaramucci said there could be leaks coming from the White House communications shop. Let's play the clip for those who didn't see it.
Tomorrow I'm going to have a meeting with the communications staff and say, hey, I don't like these leaks. And so we're going to stop the leaks. And if we don't stop the leaks, I'm going to stop you. It's just really that simple.
Bravo.
Do you think that's true, that there have been leaks from inside the comm shop?
I'll be in that meeting. Here's what I'm going to tell you. I think our job at the White House is not to sit there and read about ourselves, to try to curate our images. I mean, obviously, I'd get much better press coverage if I were good at that. And if you've got people who have folks working overtime for them and not the president, whether they're inside or outside of the White House, I am interested in people getting truthful, relevant, timely information out to America. And I think the media's job is to be skeptical but not cynical. I think the media's job is to be probing but not punctilious, frankly, or pugnacious. I feel, and if you are going to tell me that this hasn't been a very contentious relationship since day one, it's just not true, Brian. I've been somebody who's tried to be.
I agree that it has
been. I'm not even in the press and comm shop. But I try to support their efforts completely because we're working on behalf of America.
Will you be reporting to Scaramucci now that he's taking more power?
No, I report to the president. I report directly to the president as he does, and that's benefited me because.
Were you consulted in bringing in Scaramucci?
I was. But look, I want to tell you something. I've tried to make this conversation about the American people and the ones who are truly suffering, and you went back to making it about the media. Now, I respect that, but I want to make sure
this is a program about the media, Kellyanne, and you knew that when you came on the show.
Well, that's correct. But remember, I think if you disagree with me, you're welcome to say so, and it's your program, and I respect that. But do you agree or disagree, Brian, that one essential component of the media writ large of the Fourth Estate is to make sure that America gets the information they need and they deserve, because but for you
I agree with
telling
you,
them,
but what
they
you and I
may not
disagree
hear the
on is that
information.
that's not happening. I think it is happening. I think the public is
It's not
better
happening
informed than
here.
ever before and is able to access all of it on the internet. If you don't mind, let me ask you one more question about the media, because we're on reliable sources. There is a pending merger, AT&T and Time Warner. Time Warner is owned by CNN. There was a report this week in Vanity Fair that the President of the United States was complaining about CNN in front of the CEO of AT&T. So I'm wondering, have you talked with the President about this pending merger?
I won't reveal my private conversations with the president. I know that that gentleman, I think, has been very helpful to us in some of our business council or roundtables, and we appreciate that. We've invited CEOs and working men and women and everybody across Obamacare victims, we've had people in the White House for many different listening sessions, and I believe that he has been among them, and we appreciate that.
And the point about that, about the CEO being there, is people are wondering, and the Vanity Fair story implied, that maybe the president's trying to punish CNN by maybe not approving the deal or maybe asking for concessions in the deal. Do you know anything about that?
No, and again, you're going by, you just said the word implied, so that's an important word. Thank you for admitting that. You're going by, circumspect, implied information where people
That's right.
throw
That's all it is. There's no proof. But there is concern that the president would be trying to punish a news outlet for coverage he doesn't like through a business transaction. That is the concern.
I can tell you that that's not what consumes his day. I promise you that. He's there for the people who are relying upon him to make good on his promises to be a sovereign nation that has borders, where we worry about America, American interests, American workers, American allies here and abroad, where the 50 or 60,000 factories that have been shuttered don't anymore, where that stops, where the jobs stay here, where people feel like they don't have to live paycheck to paycheck, where this president won't lie to them about health care. And so that's what consumes his days.
But he also
I'm right there with
tweets a lot about television.
He well, so you should be happy about that. You should be happy that we have such an engaged. You should be happy that we have such an engaged president. But 99% of what the president does and says is not on Twitter. It's done in the Oval Office. It's done in his cabinet meetings with different cabinet members. It's done with business leaders. It's done with his national security briefing, his intelligence briefing every day. It's done with the vice president. It's done with the senior staff. We're trying to be accessible. I've always been someone I thought has decent relationships with many in the media, but I don't know how this is sustainable. He's the president. If you could say to me with a straight face right now, Brian, that people on this network are more likely to show respect to him than disrespect, I'm listening, but I don't believe it from a content analysis alone. The furrowed brows, the rolling of the eyes,
I respect the president,
the
and I
curling of
also
the
respect
lips.
you. And I'm worried. I'm more than anything else, Kellyanne, I'm worried about the credibility problem. That's, when you hear us come on television and say, why should we believe them? It's because of things like on January 21st, when you talked about alternative facts, on January 22nd, talking about alternative facts.
Do you know what alternative facts are?
I wonder if you regret that 6 months later.
Do you know what alternative facts are? Do you know what they are? Partly cloudy.
I think what they are is your interpretation of what's going on. Go ahead.
No, that is just not true. That's not true. So let's put it to rest here and now. I'm sure it won't get covered and you won't tweet it out today, but let's do it. Alternative facts, and by the way, I meant to say
I'm going to tweet it right now. I have
there
my
you
computer.
go. Good. But alternative facts are partly cloudy, partly sunny. Alternative facts are when all of you in the media say we have the highest rated show, and then another show that's a competitor says, no, we have the highest rated show, because one of you is using all the viewers overall, and the other ones are using the demo. Alternative facts, Brian
You're
Stelter.
savvy. That's right. That's
no,
right.
Alternative fact, glass half full, glass half empty. Everybody knew what I meant. And there are hiccups and missteps in the media every single day, but nobody bothered to ask me. They just wanted to look at it through the most negative lens possible. They know that what Sean Spicer meant by that is that you now in 2017 have people looking at the inauguration up close and in person. You have people watching on their screens, which they couldn't do 10 years earlier. You have people certainly watching on TV, listening to on the radio, multimedia way of doing that. But I also said on all the networks that day that I didn't think it was a particularly important piece of information, because it doesn't matter. What matters is if the president is able to move the needle economically and through national security. And indeed, since January 22nd, he has. And that's not an alternative fact, that's a fact. Stock market up 25 record highs, fact. Over 800,000 jobs created, fact. Healthcare reform on its way and tax reform right after that, fact, fact. But alternative facts, let me just repeat for those at home. Partly cloudy, partly sunny. when CNN says it's got the highest rated show, and then a competitor says no, we do, because one's using the demo, one's using the overall ratings. And so ask any lawyer anytime what an alternative fact is. But thank you for raising. I knew you meant it to be snarky, but I'm glad to at least have the platform to explain it. The president told me it was
I hope you'll come back,
genius.
Kellyanne.
I will come back.
Will you come
and
back?
I hope you'll come to the White House, and
All
you'll
right.
come on the road with me to meet Americans who think that help is on the way. No, they're not the base. We hear from people all the time who say, you know, I didn't vote this year, I didn't vote for him, but he's the president. And they'll say, I respect the office of the president and its current occupant, and I want him to succeed. It's our nation, our time, and I agree with them.
I will text you. I'll set it up. Kellyanne, thanks
Awesome.
for being here.
Thank you. Take care, Brian.